Aaj ki Anand ki Jai, which in English means understanding and appreciating how fortunate we are. In our downtime, we were able to listen to the mridanga, to a saxophone, and now to the flute. And though I clap after this, I clap because I feel that's what we're used to. But what we have experienced over the last 3 evenings is not about clapping, but rather about feeling this within ourselves. Chetan is a seeker. He's a seeker I may have known for a longer time than most of you. In August of 2008, I was teaching at Chinmaya Mission Chicago, Yamunotri Center first summer camp, and Chetan was in my class. We are both the same age. Yes, we were classmates. I was teaching a grade 5 through 8 class, and he was in that class. And we have continued to seek together since then. He's come on a yatra with me, with us also. And what's very special about Aryan, Amol, Chetan, tomorrow we have another seeker who will be sharing. All that is required is a 2-line email sharing, please play for our community. And that's it. Not, can you talk to me about this? Can you give me this? This shows how much humility is being nurtured in our community. And I'd shared that yesterday also in terms of all of you have been surreally generous in terms of your donations. Just today, someone else donated against Rise Against Hunger. So we're working our way towards $500,000, but nobody knows who's donated because we're practicing humility in such a natural way. In my first screen, I see everyone's smiles. I look at the gallery. So I have 7 by 7. So I can see 49 seekers with their smiles on. I'm on my second screen. I see another 49 seekers, including those who are joining us from New Zealand, from Kenya, from Bharat. I'm on my third screen now. In our community, we also experience this subtle pressure. But this is all for the sake of community. I'm sure many of you who join virtual programs, it would be rare to have even the first screen having their cameras on, both us. Only a few in our last screen don't have their cameras on. I'm encouraging everyone to have their cameras on so that we can feel each other's smiles. Hariom, and greetings from Niagara Falls. Some years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., about to begin a youth camp for high school students. And there was probably 100 high school students sitting in the front on the ground, and then 100 of their parents sitting behind them on chairs. It's a Monday morning, and I asked everyone to look at me carefully, to keep looking at me. And then I asked the high school students, are your parents teaching you to be smart or to be good? And the key was they have to look at me, not look around. And I feel unanimously, they shared that their parents are teaching them to be smart. And then I asked their parents the exact same question. And I told them, look at me. And they almost unanimously shared that they were teaching their kids to be good. So much disconnection in this small space amongst 200 people who have been together for more than a decade. When one is living by being smart, then what one feels, what one achieves, is being successful. When one lives by goodness, being good, achieving good, then what they feel is meaning. Their lives are meaningful. Earlier this week, I was facilitating a class on social entrepreneurship. And I had shared with those fourth-year students who are graduating from accounting programs, marketing programs, that in 2018, Time magazine released a really awesome edition on the science of happiness. And article after article shared that workers, particularly those who work in corporations, are ready to accept lower pay for more meaningful work, for more meaningful jobs. We gather not to be successful, because being successful, one will still feel stress, anxiety, dejection. But we gather to practice, to nurture, to invoke meaning, which will help us to feel happy and happiness. In 2017, when we started the happiness series, our focus was happiness in health, in home, in honorarium. That means what we do outside of our home. I'm consciously not sharing a job. There's lots of us like me who don't have jobs. We are not living for a check. There's lots of combinations of people. The next year, we zoomed into health, happiness and health, and we took up such subjects like how not to feel lonely, how to manage time better, how to be more large-hearted. The year after that, we zoomed into how to be happy in honorarium, meaning what you're doing with your life. And we focused on subjects like choosing the right vocation, not succumbing to competition, being balanced with life and work. In our fourth year, we zoomed into being happy at home. That is possibly the hardest circumstance to be happy in. Today, I'll share more about that. And we took up subjects like emotions, distractions, communication. And in our fifth happiness series, we zoomed into how to live ideally, and how that's preceded by integrity and that's preceded by inclusivity. For anyone who's been part of every happiness series, the breadth and depth of what we've been exploring is awesome. This year, we continue to immerse in personality powers. And really, the word powerful can be changed to peaceful. Ways for our personality to be more peaceful. In 2020, when we really established ourselves in the virtual space, before every workshop, before every class, I'd asked everyone to invoke toughness and evoke hope. During this very confusing and sick time, to invoke toughness, to evoke hope. Really, I was asking all seekers to nurture resilience. Be resilient for yourself, for those around you. And how can one nurture resilience other than prayer? One can do so by exercise. More long-term than that is examples. Having examples in your life of those who are resilient. And more long-term than that is ethics. To have the morality, to have the ideals, to not give up. If you think about exercise, examples, and ethics, Sri Hanumana is all of these. Most physically strong, most mentally strong, most intellectually strong. And that's why if we want to become more powerful and to use this power to be peaceful, then Sri Hanumana is the right icon to study, to feel. The first power is Anima. Anima is the power to be humble, the value of humility. And our technique, engage your responsibility. How do you know that you're engaging your responsibility? One way is you shift from multitasking to unitasking. That there is nothing more important than this responsibility. The second personality power, Mahima, which is the value of confidence. Our technique, research your identity. You are more than your name. You are more than your body. Your dimensions more. That is outside the purview of this workshop. How will you know if you're researching your identity? You will become more positive. The more deep you go into who you are, the more you tune into that peace. So naturally, peace radiating is positivity. The third personality power is Laghima. Physically, this is the power to be light. And we highlighted, in terms of tradition, how Sri Hanumana made himself light enough to be on Sri Bharata's arrow, and this arrow transported Sri Hanumana to Lanka with the medicine that Sri Lakshmana needed, and Sri Lakshmana was healed. And we know how happy Sri Rama was. Now, in terms of our personality, Laghima is the value of acceptance. Acceptance. Some weeks ago, in our Seeking Culture class, that's for our chicks, our Chinmaya Yuvakendra, I shared with them that the more authentic you become, the less annoyed you are with yourself. How many of you have been annoyed with yourself this week? By show of hands. Right? We've been annoyed by being temperamental, being judgmental, being careless. But the more authentic one is, that means one is accepting oneself. So then naturally, since you're practicing that, it becomes more natural to accept others then. Our technique specifically, it is to appreciate your opportunity. All of the articles and beings and circumstances that flow into your life and flow out of your life, appreciate your opportunity. This is custom designed for you. To learn, you are joy. How do you know you're becoming more accepting? I keep coming back to that because sometimes we make subjective sciences complicated when they're not. They're most simple. We are results-oriented people. So here are some measurements. You know you're becoming accepting if you're less annoyed and more enduring. If you think of a coworker whom you find to be annoying, but tomorrow or next week you're less annoyed by them, but you endure them more, that means you're practicing acceptance. More evolved than that is where you respect them. And the most evolved, the most beautiful expression of acceptance is loving them. We love ourselves to try to build up to loving all beings in the same way, including animals and plants and stones. It's almost easier with animals and plants, correct? And the fourth personality power, Garima. Physically, this is the power to make oneself heavy in weight. And I'd shared the katha, the episode relating to how Sri Hanumana's younger brother Bhima couldn't lift his tail up. And if you didn't connect the dots, Sri Hanumana is significantly older than Bhima. In fact, Sri Hanumana is Chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi means he is ever present. Some can see him with their eyes. The prelude to that is to feel him looking at you and looking after you. That's why I'm very fond of teaching in this space, because occasionally I'll look at my screen, and when I look at my screen, I don't look at myself, I see Sri Hanumana looking at me, looking after us, the icon of hope and toughness, or toughness and hope. The personality power of Garima is dedication. Dedication. Yesterday, one of you had asked, what should we be dedicated to? Pujaswami Chinmaya has shared, our religion is maximum happiness for maximum people for maximum time. That's what we should be dedicated to. What a thought, to be dedicated to maximizing what's most important, happiness. And so our technique to support your opportunity, your utility. What we find to be of the highest utility is that which makes us happy. Yes. Most likely, your best friends are those who contribute towards your happiness, most likely. So you find a utility in that. So now, if you are clear that being happy is your utility, support that. Give yourself to that. Your resources, your time, your effort. By doing so, what will happen is this sense of individuality, or the sense of separation, will fade away. One will start to feel that they're part of humanity, that they're united with all. Many here are more traditional. You engage in puja, which is a ritual. How do you know that you're engaged in puja? It's not by Sanskrit. It's not by chanting. It's where you feel more united with what you're worshiping. And if you don't feel more united, then you're not engaged in puja. You're saying it, but you're actually not engaged in that. You're not giving yourself to that ideal. We continue. The fifth personality power is Prakamya. Prakamya. From the perspective of tradition, this is the power to go wherever you want. You know, in the Marvel comics, the shapeshifters, that's been copied from Prakamya. Those who can make themselves invisible, copied from Prakamya. So this power to go. Here's some more tradition. How many of you join Meaningful Mornings live or recorded by a show of hands? Awesome. Who is listening to Bhagavad Gita? From tradition. I know you are, I know I am, but traditionally, share the names of those who are listening to Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya, Arjuna, Dhritarashtra, all correct. Vyasa, Krishna. But we often forget, so is Sri Hanumana. Where is he? Sri Hanumana is on Prince Arjuna's flag. And I've already shared that he is Chiranjeevi, which means he's ever present. So he also is listening to the Bhagavad Gita. He can go wherever he wants to go. When he was with Sri Rama, he worked a lot. So he didn't get a lot of opportunities to listen to Sri Rama. So as creation went on, he worked less. He was just sitting there on that flag, but he got to listen more. You know, an implication for us in reference to Prakamya is we can listen to Sri Rama and Sri Krishna in the same way that Sri Hanumana did and does. You can go anywhere through listening, through imagining. And typically that's shared in kids' shows, correct? Like Reading Rainbow or A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. But I mean this in a much more meaningful and sacred way. In terms of our personality power, not a physicality power, but personality power, Prakamya is adaptability. This is the fifth value, adaptability. The most volatile experience we have ever had or will have is with people, particularly people who are close to us. Does anyone disagree? Only maybe children would disagree because they've not gone through that experience fully thus far. Why is it so hard to work with people? I feel that all the time with you. Why is it so hard to live with people? Share with me in the chat. Why is this the most volatile part of our life, our lifestyle? That's right. Because of the ego. Every one of you is so clear about this. The ego is an icon of unpredictability. We can have the exact same circumstance, and because of our ego, we will react in a different way every day, every hour. Yes? Vilasini ji and I, since 2014, have been facilitating marriage enrichment retreats. And I always remember what she's shared. The day two people get married, if you take a more traditional relationship, a woman and a man get married, that man doesn't want that woman to change at all, and that woman wants that man to change every day. But neither of those circumstances is going to happen, though, is my point, correct? Both of their expectations are inaccurate. That's why our marriage enrichment retreats are so popular. So popular. volatile because of the ego. And so if the ego is volatile, always unpredictable, isn't there so much more value in adaptability then? When I interact with those who are younger and they ask me, what should we be looking for in a partner, whether it's romantic or it's a business, my consistent answer is adaptability. That is the people value. From technique, tradition to ties to technique, hear your family. H-E-A-R. Hear your family. I've now shared with you 5 verbs, correct? Engage, appreciate, and so on. And then the second word is always your. Not the person next to you, not the person behind you, not the person in front of you, but your. And for the sake of simplicity, the last word is sounding similar. Opportunity, identity. Now, family. Hear your family. What I've observed in my own family, my parents are alive. We live less than a mile from them. I have an older sister and a younger sister who both have families. I've been married for almost 13 years. Our oldest child is almost 6. So a lot of family. What I've observed is people want to be heard. So often people feel dismissed. Do you agree? Can you relate to that? And that's why this morning, Sheila was asking me. This morning was very strange. I got up at 12:30 a.m. this morning, and I just stayed up. I just didn't go back to sleep. And I don't know why. I think it's just I've been having to wake up so often at night because of mosquitoes in Trinidad or kids with the flu. And so my point is this morning I engaged in 2 one-with-ones, 2, one at 5 a.m. and one at 6 a.m. And Sheila was asking me, do you find these one-with-ones useful? And I shared that they're very useful, that there's many who share because they want to be heard. And if I can be part of that, then I will be part of that. Hearing your family, you start to understand yourself more. That's what's so amazing about active listening. If you're actively listening, undoubtedly you're understanding the other person more, but more so, you're understanding yourself. For those who know more about traditional Vedanta, that's called Swadhyaya. It is self-study. How do you do that? Hear your family. Now, one point to be noted here is hearing your family is different than listening to your family. Listening to your family means that you're following them, but you have to make decisions for yourself about your future, about your present. Hearing them does mean that you respect them, that there's a dialogue, but listening is different. That you have to decide for yourself. Reflect on that. I'll quickly introduce the final personality power for this evening. Number 6 is Prapti. Prapti. Some of you have this name, Prapti. This physical power, from the perspective of tradition, is to gain whatever you want to gain. So Prakamya, to go wherever you want to go. Prapti is to gain whatever you want to gain. When Sri Hanumana had returned from Lanka, and he shared with Sri Rama that I felt Devi Sita. Sri Rama shared with Sri Hanumana, I have never been in debt more than I am in debt to you. He said, I feel like shrinking away from you because I don't have anything to give to you. And as Sri Rama is telling this to Sri Hanumana falls to Sri Rama's feet and says, protect me from my ego growing. What a lovely thought. Again, coming back to no ROI, no recognition, no ovation, no inclusion. And then Sri Rama lifted Sri Hanumana up off the ground and embraced him. The hug scene that we often see images of, that essentially is Sri Rama didn't know what to give to Hanumanji. So what did he do? He gave himself. He gave joy. Rama means joy. For us, this is indicative of the highest gain is when you no longer seek gain. As long as you're looking to gain something, then you can go higher, or in our case, go deeper. The personality power from the perspective of ties, the value is effort. And I was trying to think of a better word than effort. A word that I came up with was intensity, and other seekers shared diligence. But it is that value of being a hard, smart worker. And I'm just going to share the technique now so we can switch over to dynamics. The technique is direct your energy. Direct your energy. Energy, your potential that is not directed, is really wasted. But if you can direct your energy, you start to feel more, you start to contribute more. I'll leave those thoughts there. I'll elaborate on this. And really the two most beautiful values are the end of the ashta siddhi, which we will explore tomorrow. From downtime to discourse, discourse to dynamics. On day one of the happiness series, our dynamics was on design thinking. A typical design thinking workshop is facilitated over days. We experience this over minutes, a most distilled version. And this is really awesome because it encourages us how to systematically reflect, not randomly reflect. On day two of the happiness series, our dynamics was on Prithvi Seva, serving our earth. And one of our presenters had shared that our community and those who are associated with our communities are becoming planet healers. I listened to the recording twice because I appreciated that sentiment so much, to be a planet healer, not a planet user, but a planet healer. Today's dynamics will be facilitated by Madhav. Madhav, I feel amongst everyone here, I shared earlier, I've known Chetan the longest, but really I've known Madhav the longest. Madhav and I literally grew up together in the Niagara area. And we weren't so close when we grew up, but Madhav became more of a seeker. And he recently completed the one-year Vedanta course. And now he's come back to Niagara. And what's great about this is that he already is trained in social work, and now he has that accentuated training of the science of self-development. Madhav, please lead away in our dynamics.
Hariom, everyone. Can everyone hear me? See me? Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to present. I'm just going to pull up a slideshow. Okay. Everyone can see the slideshow? Okay. Okay. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So today I'm going to talk with you briefly about social work and Vedanta. So Some of you who know me may know that I'm a social worker by profession. And recently I completed the Vedanta course. So perhaps that makes me qualified to discuss this subject. So what does social work mean? I think many people have heard the term. People are familiar with what social workers do, maybe in a limited capacity. But let's kind of understand it a little bit more, and then we'll get to more dynamic stuff in just a few minutes. So what does social work mean? So composed of two words, right? So the first word is social. So when we're talking about social, we're referring to society. When we're referring to society, we're referring to humans, individuals, communities, groups, right? So social workers generally will work with people, not animals, not the environment. Not that they don't support those things, but that's not what a social worker would necessarily be focused on. Then work, that's in one word, that would be serving. So a social worker, in very brief term, a social worker is one who is trained and equipped to serve society. So who do social workers help? Social workers primarily will help the vulnerable, the people who are maybe oppressed in our society, those who are underprivileged, and those who are suffering. So that could be if you don't consider yourself vulnerable, you don't consider yourself oppressed or underprivileged, at some point in our life, we all suffer. So social workers' goal is to work with anybody who falls into one of these categories. So kind of building off that earlier definition, a social worker is one who is trained to relieve the suffering of vulnerable and underprivileged individuals and communities. So a social worker, just like a physician or somebody of many other professions, will specialize in something. They're not necessarily going to do all the professions, like all the different subsets of social work. They generally have to choose one. So as a social worker, we have to dedicate ourselves to an altar. So I myself have dedicated most of my professional career thus far to what I would call dukkha nivritti, which is mental health and addictions. So working with people who struggle with their mental health, which can be any of us, to those who struggle with addictions, which again can be any of us. Social workers can also work in the field of ahimsa, so the prevention of community violence, inter-house violence, violence against women, etc. Many, many different types of physical, emotional, intellectual violence that's out there. They can also dedicate themselves to education of youth. We hear so much about, YMCA programs, Boys and Girls Clubs, things like that. All these different organizations will have social workers who are there to help with youth education, for healthy development, things like that. And lastly, well, not lastly, but just one other subset is Vriddhanam Kalyanam. So I don't even know if that translates well from Sanskrit, but that's supporting our elderly. So we have a lot of social workers who like to support the elderly, who, in this day and age, for instance, are experiencing a lot of loneliness, et cetera, et cetera. There's many different areas where social workers work. However, I believe that the highest altar one can dedicate themselves to is Atma Vidya, so knowledge of the self, knowledge that will remove suffering for once and for all. So all the other types of social work that we do will help with relieve suffering, but suffering that, may or will eventually come back. But Atma Vidya, knowledge of the self, what we're learning here, what we're learning in our scriptures, I think is the highest altar that anyone can dedicate themselves to. And in the eyes of Vedanta, we are all vulnerable, we are all suffering, and we are all oppressed. And Vedanta is there to wake us up from this so that we're no longer vulnerable, we're no longer suffering, and we're no longer oppressed. So who then are the greatest social workers? The greatest social workers are our masters. So we'll start with Swami Vivekananda, for instance. These are just examples. Swami Vivekananda traveled in 1893, like 100 and almost 40 years ago. How much? 130 years ago, approximately 130 years ago. He traveled from India to the US and many other countries in between by boat, which took him months, to spread the word of our scriptures, to speak at the religious summit in Chicago, to spread this word, to bring happiness to people around the world. That immense sacrifice, that immense dedication, unmatched by almost anyone. Then we look at Swami Vivekananda ji's master's wife, who is also a master, Swami Sharda, Sharda Devi. She, again, a realized master who probably was, the greatest counselor of her time. So many stories of people coming to her, suffering, in need of support, and her love, her compassion, what Vivekji was talking about earlier, just making people feel heard. She healed people in that way. And she was also dedicated, even though herself was not educated, she dedicated a lot of her efforts to women's education. Then we have Shri Adi Shankaracharya. So at the center that I studied, my one-year Vedanta course was in Kerala. That was where Shri Adi Shankaracharya's birthplace was. And to think of what Shri Adi Shankaracharya did in 32 years of life is something that institutions, universities can't even scratch the surface on. Traveled up and down India. He reintroduced Advaita Vedanta, which was, if not completely absent, or almost completely absent, it was completely absent. He brought it back, and that's the reason we're all here today. That's what we study in the Chinmaya Mission, is Advaita Vedanta. So because of him, we are all able to do this and all able to become happier. And lastly, but not least, our Gurudev. What Gurudev did, what can you say? He set up, probably in our modern era, the greatest set of gurukuls for learning Atma Vidya, Vedanta, something that's unmatched. How many people have been trained at these institutions that he set up and are now spreading this beautiful message of Advaita Vedanta because of him? So these, I think, are the greatest social workers. So social work really is Vedanta manifested as action. All of these individuals, all of these masters who mastered Vedanta were incredible at working in the field and doing what they do. So I want to focus on one specific skill today, one specific character trait that I think is important that all of these masters had, and something that we can all work on for us to become better human beings and for us to do better in our social work. So that important character trait is adaptability. Okay, so I just want to take a quick look at the time. So we're gonna do a little bit of an adaptability quiz. Okay, so I'm gonna ask everybody to pull out a pen and paper, something super simple. And I'm just gonna skip over this initial one. And the way this works is I'm gonna read a scenario to you. I'm gonna give you three options, A, B, or C. You choose which of the three you think suits you the most or kind of jives with you the most. And then we'll tally up the scores at the end to kind of assess where we are on our adaptability scale. Okay. Some of these scenarios might not apply to you. Some of them may apply to you directly, but just kind of go with it. Put yourself in the scenario, even if you've never been in it before. Okay. You attended a new discussion satsang group, and the one person you know doesn't attend this week. You decide to A, go home and decide you'll try again next week. B, Stay but sit quietly and try to keep yourself occupied. Avoid eye contact as much as possible, and leave as soon as it ends. C, welcome the opportunity to meet new seekers, introduce yourself to everyone, share your opinion openly in the discussion. Okay, so I just want you to choose. So you just on your paper, you want to put question 1 and just choose A, B, or C, just whichever one suits you the most. Number 2, you're organizing an event or some type of minor problem arises. Your instinct is to A, get upset or frustrated, hope that it gets resolved on its own, or hope that someone else can fix it. B, see if you can find a solution, but if it doesn't seem possible, then you move on and try to find a new way around it. C, give all your energy to solve the issue no matter what it takes. Okay, next question. Number 3, your landlord sold your building to a new developer and you are being asked to move out. Your next action is to A, see it as an excuse to find something bigger and better, start searching for a new place that will bring more excitement to your life and maybe improve your friend circle. B, see it as a blessing, use it as an opportunity to evaluate what you want and where you want to live. Consider it an opportunity to explore vast options, perhaps even going to India or abroad for some time. C, call your landlord, yell at him, see if you can take some type of civil action to prevent the sale from going through. Okay, A, B, or C. Next question. You've settled into a great life, great job, great friends, great balance. Then a new pandemic is announced. You're advised not to see your friends in person until further notice. You're stuck inside and your job is at risk. You do the following. A, proactively find new ways to bring balance back to your life. Go on walks, spend more time in nature, pick up a new skill that might improve your employment prospects, register for online discussions, plan events with friends and family in a safe way. B, do your best to maintain your way of life. Go out with friends who aren't afraid to take risks. Work even harder at your job to keep your mind from getting bored. Let out steam by complaining about the pandemic to others who are also frustrated. C, come up with conspiracy theories and post them anonymously online in hopes that people don't take the pandemic seriously and you can go back to your old ways of life. I know some of you do that. Just kidding. Okay, next one. When the cold weather comes, you A, get upset, complain, stay inside, and wait for it to leave. B, welcome it and find ways to enjoy it. C, don't complain, blast the heater, and get as cozy as you can if you have to go outside. You get injured going out for a walk or a run. You say to yourself, A, walking sucks anyways. I'll find something else active to do that's less boring. B, God is clearly trying to send me a message that I shouldn't exercise anymore. And so you stop exercising. C, God is giving me an opportunity to build resilience and come back even stronger. Okay, next question. Today was a bad day. Lots went wrong. You got sick. You locked yourself out of the house and forgot your best friend's birthday. Your response is A, accept everything that went wrong, laugh it off as best you can by putting it into perspective, make yourself tea to treat your cold, arrange for a new house key to be made so you don't get locked out again, call your friend and apologize and make plans to spend with them a different day. B, feel really down and do whatever it takes to feel better immediately, such as eat ice cream, watch a show, watch cat videos, or buy a new pair of shoes. C, do your best to distract yourself from the awful day, reflect briefly on how things could have gone differently, maybe go to the gym and listen to some music to feel better. Go to sleep early and hope tomorrow will be better. Okay, that's the end of the quiz. We're gonna do a quick scoring tally, okay? So for number 1, if you chose A, you get 1 point. If you chose B, you get 2 points. If you chose C, you get 3 points. So just write down 1, 2, or 3, okay? So for question 2, if you chose A, you get 1 point. If you chose B, you get 3 points. If you chose C, you get 2 points. Number 3, if you chose A, you get 2 points. If you chose B, 3, C, 1. For number 4, if you chose A, you get 3. If you chose B, you get 2. If you chose C, you get 1. Number 5, if you chose A, you get 1. B, you get 3. C, you get 2. Number 6, if you chose A, you get 2. B, you get 1. C, you get 3. Number 7, if you chose A, you get 3. B, you get 1. C, you get 2. Everybody's clear? No confusion? Okay, now I want you to tally up your scores. Okay, the lowest possible score you can get is 7, and the highest possible score you can get would be 21. Now, there's no official scale here to show, like, if you scored above this, you're highly adaptable. Something you can judge on your own. But let's say if you're below 15, you have some work to do. If you're above 15, you're doing pretty good. You still have some work to do. If you're 21, you're lying to yourself. You still have work to do. Okay. Okay. So quickly, just in the interest of time, I'll go quite quick here. When building this quiz, I'm frozen here. Oops. Okay. When building this quiz, I formulated the answers into 3 different types. So one is tamasic adaptation. Okay. So tamasic adaptation are those where we resist change. We see no benefit in changing. We complain and blame. We change only if we're forced to. Then we have rajasic adaptation. Actually, it's like in the background you see fallen tree. A tree that resists the wind falls, right? Rajasic adaptation. You tolerate change. You change as little as needed. You look for self-serving opportunities and change, and you adapt, but only on your own terms that suit you. Just like the bamboo tree, it bends, but a lot of wind, it'll break too. Lastly is sattvic adaptation. You embrace change. You see opportunity in change where everyone benefits. You move in the direction of change, and you're proactive in the change process. Just like grass, a giant storm can come and grass comes and goes. It doesn't fall. It doesn't get uprooted. It flows with the change. Okay. So those are the 3 different ways that we did it. Now, just 3 quick ways that we can all become better at adapting. The first is to trust yourself, trust your abilities. When Lord Hanuman jumped over the ocean or jumped up to the Himalayas to get the Sanjeevani plant, he did not know what he was going to run into, but he trusted himself. He trusted his abilities were going to get him through, and he was able to adapt to everything that came his way. Second is Atithi Devo Bhava. So in our scriptures, it says this, that treat guests as though they're God. So even treat any type of change, any type of obstacle that comes in the way as though it's a guest. Welcome it. Treat it with respect. Treat it with love. And then move through it. And lastly, prasada buddhi. Prasada buddhi is very important. It's part of karma yoga. See that everything that comes to you is a gift from God, is a sweetness that God offers you. And this is a way that we can deal with change and become more adaptable. We won't review. You can review it on your own. It'll be posted on Facebook in the interest of time. So, Hari Om. Thank you, everyone.
So, Madhav, if you read the comments in the chat right now, everyone is sharing in a sincere way. They're not just sharing because they have to. And I feel bad because our dynamics is so great, but every day everyone is only given 25-ish minutes. Our dialogue is so great, but everyone is only given 25-ish minutes. Maybe we should have 2 happiness series a year. Tomorrow, we're going to share a survey with you, actually, and you can share that. Do you think we should do this twice a year so that people like Madhav can take full time for full impact for all of us? We continue from dynamics to dialogue. On day 1, our dialogue was from someone who supports the sharing of Vedanta from 2010. Sheila is a mother and a practicing attorney. On day 2, our dialogue was tended to by one who shares the science of self-development. Shashikalaji studied in the Vedanta course from 2014 to 2016. She is a grandmother and retired physician. And now day 3's dialogue is going to be facilitated by Kritikaji. And Kritikaji, she shares Vedanta in a most active way. I recently told her in a most transparent way that our Chinmaya Inspiration Yatras to Trinidad only happen because of her. If there's no Kritikaji, then there's no Yatra. She completed the Vedanta course in Trinidad from 2013 to 2014. And she's unique. She's not a mother or a grandmother, but she's depending on herself. She's not an active lawyer or retired physician, but she's a professional sevika, a social worker, in reference to our earlier dynamics. Kritikaji, welcome to the Happiness Series 6. You're joining us in Trinidad, so it's an hour later for Kritikaji right now. We appreciate you being patient with us, and we're eager to learn from you. Our team will facilitate questions for you. Anything you want to share at the beginning, Kritikaji?
No, Vivekji, I'm just hoping that in the initial meeting, Vivekji said, all the hard questions, make sure Kritika gets them. So I want to know if this is like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire kind of scenario where I can call up a friend. See how the questions go. Thank you for having me, Vivekji.
You're the most senior teacher thus far who's to the dialogue, so you're getting more difficult questions. No help.
Hariom Kritikaji and Hariom fellow seekers. It is so wonderful to have Kritikaji with us this evening, and I feel so grateful for the opportunity to help facilitate dialogue with Kritikaji. So Kritikaji, seekers have submitted questions through Slido. Begin with the first question. Okay.
So,
Kritikaji, the first question is, when dealing with circumstances where I must surrender my desires, how do I develop greater indifference to the results and develop greater acceptance?
so the first thing actually with this question is when we say we're dealing with circumstances, and then we have to surrender our desires. The first teaching that Bhagavan Shri Krishna touches on and teaches in Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga. And that Karma Yoga is defined as doing your duty. And that is the reason for duty, actually. There's no likes or dislikes that can be inserted in there. If you are a garbage man, garbage woman, you can't decide, I want to pick up the garbage that smells nice, and I don't want to pick up the garbage that doesn't smell so good. Your duty is to pick up garbage. So in that, there's no discussion of my likes and my dislikes and what I want and any karma, any desires, any of that. But of course, we are who we are, and we have many, many different desires, and we have many different likes and all. So when I say I have to surrender my desires, the first thing I have to think about is this desire impeding or creating an obstacle in reaching that goal, whatever it is, if it's in my duty, if it's in my daily activities, if it's whatever role I play in whichever environment, is an impediment to that goal. And if it is, then I have to think, okay, is that desire something that will help or something that will further impede reaching that goal? If it's something that will create a bigger obstacle, create a bigger problem, create a bigger confusion in my mind, any of those, then immediately I have to remove that. Right? It's very simple for us. If we're taking, for instance, antibiotics, and that antibiotics is making me nauseous or making me feel more sick than I was initially. Well, immediately I call the doctor and I say, I need something else. This isn't working out for me. So the same thing should be applied to our thoughts. and our mind and our feelings, if that's creating more problems for me, well, first I need to be honest with myself and say, this is creating a problem. It's not helping. It's not helping me at all. It's creating a problem. Children can't decipher that. That's why they'll cry and scream when they want to go on the ride or they want that candy or toy or whatever. They can't decide, okay, this is creating a bigger problem than it's creating a solution. But adults can. So we have to think, okay, this is creating a problem. Remove this desire. Forget about that. I will pick up the smelly garbage bag and also the non-smelly garbage bag as well, just because I have to do it. So that circumstance, actually, every part of our life we should think of as a part of our duty. Whether it is I go to the movies with my children or friends or whoever it may be, I go to work, I'm doing the dishes, create it or rethink it as a duty in our mind. And then from that, our actions and our thoughts should become very clear. Where there's a gray area, that's where our gurus will come in. Or just some vichar, that's where that will assist. And so how do I develop a greater indifference to the results and greater acceptance? Well, if it's my duty, if I pick up the smelly garbage bag and I throw it in the garbage truck, well, the reason for doing that is because that's supposed to compress it. The truck is supposed to compress the garbage and it's supposed to go through its next stages. I don't stand up behind the truck and try and stick my head in and see if everything has gone well and hope I get a reward at the end or get best garbage woman of the year or whatever it may be. My duty is my duty. So I do the work and then I leave the result. If I'm doing the work properly, then the result should come. But there are the times that it doesn't come, like just now Vivekji was talking about in Trinidad. The week that Vivekji and the Yatris were here is the week that we got the most rain for the year. So the majority of the country was actually flooded out. They, of course, they were fine. The Yatris were fine because they enjoyed the rain and it wasn't cold or anything. But from the other side, all the farmers, many Seva ashram are farmers and all. And they planted all their fields and fields of fruits and vegetables and all that got washed away. So the work is there, the effort is there, but the result, well, you can't determine what will happen. We don't have any control over that. Ishvara is karma paladata. Ishvara is the one who will determine the result. So if I do my work, if I do my actions according to the duty that is there at hand, then whatever result comes, I should be accepting of it because I put in the work wholeheartedly. I did what I was supposed to do. And whatever comes, well, that is where I have to turn to Bhagwan. I have to turn to Ishvara. Bhagwan, I put this work and this is what you have given to me. Well, I could possibly direct my anger to you, but I can't tell Bhagwan what to do. I can't change my karma. What I have done or what I get is what I have deserved. So whatever is happening, okay, this has happened now. So now I have to find a solution. If it's a unwanted result, if it's a wanted result, then good. The result has come, but let's not dwell on it. There's more work to be done. And then you move on to the next duty that we have. I hope that covered the question, Sheetal. You can tell me if I need to go over anything.
Shared so wonderful example. So much. Kritika ji, the next question the seeker asks is, how does one gauge adaptability in oneself or someone else? How is it different from acceptance?
I think the first thing that we can look at there is acceptance. I think in our day and age, like now, acceptance is kind of, I have my thoughts and I know what is right. And this person has the wrong thought and they have their own opinion. And I need to try and figure out how to very nicely let them down and let them know that they're wrong, or let them know that their thinking is incorrect. And that could be anything on the spectrum. But acceptance, I think we have to kind of understand from a Vedantic viewpoint. So we don't, in Hinduism, in Sanatan Dharma, we don't say, I tolerate everybody or I tolerate this world. That means that my likes and my dislikes, my biases, my ego, that's the correct thing. And everything else is wrong. And I just tolerate everybody and everything around me. But that's not what Vedanta teaches. That's not what Sanatan Dharma encompasses. We say we accept because the world is as it is. Like Vivekji teaches this very nicely to the yatris that come in. I don't know, I can't remember if it's been said directly to them. I possibly have, but I know Swamiji will tell also when Vedanta students are and we have camps in the ashram. You're coming to an ashram, or you're coming into a new country, you're coming into a new accommodation, a new home, and you have found the place as it is. You cannot change anything. You cannot make it different. That is not up to you. You're only here for a day or 2, a week, however long it may be. You accept it as it is. It was here before you, and it will be here after you leave. And the world is that same thing. The world is as it is. People are who they are. And all different aspects of nature is what it is. So when we say that we accept, it means that what my thinking is not better than anything else in this world. That is just my lens. That is how I function in this environment that I'm in this world. And we know that when we were younger with our friends, the lens of this world was very wild and carefree. You need to take many risks and chances, and you cross the road where there's no lights or something like that. And then when you go home and you're with your family, then you're very, straight and very proper. And so you're seeing the world in a different environment. But the world is as it is. When you're with your friends, that is who they are. When you're with your family, that is who they are. And so therefore you adapt in those situations. So if you know, for instance, I think the main, one of the main concerns would be my coworkers or family members. They are who they are. And your job is not to change them. Bhagwan didn't put you on earth to change anybody. Bhagwan put you on earth, put you in this human body so that you can gain moksha, so that you can be free from all of these different biases and likes and dislikes of how this one should act and how I should respond and what do I have to prove to them and all of that. So when I accept this world as it is, then I'm able to be flexible. I'm able to see Hanumanji went into Lanka first as a leader and then he went afterwards as a follower. So Hanumanji was very flexible like that. So I can adapt to this person and let that person have the last say. That's okay. It doesn't make any difference to me. And let me lead this person on this path, in the right path. Let my child go this way. Let this new intern be a good worker. Let me teach that person the right way. Even if my boss may have this way about them or this way of talking to people, that doesn't need to trickle down. I can accept the way that the boss talks to me or the boss treats other people. And I may go through different avenues to have that rectified through HR and whatever it may be. It doesn't mean that we stay passive at all, but it doesn't mean that I need to stand up in front of everybody and shout down that boss and prove a point every single time. I accept who that person is, I accept who this person is, and I adapt in the different environments. So they are a little bit different, but they can also be, I think you have the opportunity also to have them work synonymously as well. But if we're looking at the difference, and at least I think that's what it.
I think your examples were so relatable. Examples from the workplace, especially. Thank you so much for that, Kritikaji. Kritikaji, the next question is, the seeker asks, I dedicate and dilemma creeps in. I keep going back and forth. Intellect wants to commit and mind does not want to do the hard work. Any suggestions?
Yeah, so that goes back to our first answer. Duty has to take precedence. That's why I think a few years ago I was seeing like a quote going around on social media that you must always be disciplined because you will not always be motivated. We will have our down days, we will have our bad moments, we will go through depression, all different things. But the discipline of what is my duty has to be very stark in our mind. Even if we have to write it down, there's different ways that will cause us to remember. When you're having a good day at work or a good day in being a parent or being a daughter or a son or whatever it may be, write it down and write down why. So that when you're having a bad day, you can go back to it. And you could say, okay, this is what I remember. This is how I know I'm supposed to be. This is the frame of mind that I can be in. I will be in at some point, and I was in the past. So this sankalpa vikalpa of my mind back and forth, it will just come and go. But at the end of the day, if I'm very clear on what my duty is, right? So my duty is to be to work in social work. My duty is to volunteer once or twice a week at the local soup kitchen or whatever it may be. Then I shouldn't have any question about should I go to the soup kitchen or should I go and hang out with friends or something. My duty is to do that. So if I have to change the date, then fine. Or if I have to say no to this instead, then fine. But if I'm clear on what my duty is, those are very general, very gross examples. You will delve more into gray matter, and that, of course, you will have to have a more in-depth conversation. But at the end of the day, that sankalpa vikalpa is a quality of the mind. You will go back and forth. That is the nature of the mind. It's not something that is unique to you or to people in your family. It's not a family trait or anything. It's a quality of the mind. So once my duty is clear, and then I'm disciplined. That's why we do things like japa and all our sadhana, so we can discipline that mind. In Kindle Life, Gurudev talks about the 4 personalities. I don't remember if I remember all of them, but I'm sure you all will. The first is the gross personality, and then the emotional personality, the intellectual personality, and the spiritual personality. And so, for instance, if I know I love sugar, right? I love cake. And my body, when I see that cake, my tongue starts to drool. And my mind will say, my emotions will say, oh my goodness, I've been thinking about this cake for so long. Look how Bhagwan has provided. There's cake in front of me now. And then my intellect will say, no, but you have diabetes. You can't have it. You're not supposed to be having cake. And then my spiritual personality was, well, the right thing to do is to not eat the cake. So I have 4 different personalities, 3 of them telling almost the same thing. And then 2 of them telling almost the same thing, and 1 of them telling the other. And then the 4th one is telling what the correct thing is to do. So that 4th personality has to be developed. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be listening to our intellect, because our intellect is the one that can determine between the right and wrong. It can do the vichar between the 2 different options, the 2 different choices that you have in whatever circumstances it might be. So work on discipline and be clear on duty.
Discipline and duty seem to be the theme so far, and ice cream. The ice cream after this. Yesterday, I shared a rad not to describe a human in a negative way. So that was something we were to practice for today. And having reflected on this, a seeker shared that this was much more difficult than they thought to practice. Does Kritika ji have on how to help with this?
So I think one is that our world is greatly influenced on what we expose ourselves to. So I have the option of watching a documentary and I have the option of watching a sitcom on TV. And 10 out of 10, you'll probably look at the sitcom because that's lighter, that appeals to the Thomistic side. You don't need to do any thinking and all. But if you just, in that split second where you have to choose between the documentary and the sitcom, if you take an extra second, you okay, the documentary will benefit me a little bit more. The sitcom I can engage with at any time. The sitcom is there all the time. I can go online anywhere and find that. But the documentary, I don't even know that this thing exists to say I can go and search it. And then if I lead my thoughts, I press the remote or whatever we use on TVs now, your cell phone, and we turn the channel to the documentary, then in the long run, we will benefit more from it. Whether it's a small conversation that you have with somebody, small talk or whatever it may be, it's something that interests you and you go delve into it further, but it will benefit us a little bit more. So the same way, if there are only negative thoughts coming to mind about human beings, then maybe we can change our thinking or change our spectrum to include the great rishis and mentors of our tradition. That can extend also to other traditions and to the Western world and all of that. But usually you'll probably find some conspiracy theory or this one saying something bad, and then your mind will get thinking, and then you won't, that Shraddha is not there initially for you to be having full faith in that. So if you turn your mind to our great rishis like Vivekananda, Swami Chinmayananda, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, Ramana Maharishi, Sri Ramakrishnananda, like all of those great rishis and personalities of Hinduism, then slowly you'll be able to think of all the good qualities in the rest of the world. Like, you know, there's the story about, are there good people in the world or are there bad people in the world? And then I really can't remember it, you guys. I remember the 4 personalities, and that's the extent of my my memory. But essentially, if you go out looking for bad things, then you will find bad things. If you go out looking for good things, then you will find good things. And there's different ways. I just told, go and read and go and meet all the great personalities of our tradition. Go and get to know them, become their friends, let them befriend you also. But then also every day you can, you know, part of your activity, the rads that are there, you can add on to that for your own sadhana. And then write down one good quality that you wish to inculcate in yourself, or one good quality in your parent or your grandparent or family member or in your guru, whoever it may be. So every day now you're looking for something good. You have to think about what is that good thing about somebody whom you know. You don't need to make it so general also. You make it a little, and then that will make you appreciate that person a little bit more also when you have to accept whoever it may be. So what you look for in the world is what you'll find, very simply. So find ways to get around that, because like we said, the mind has to be disciplined. And who does that? The intellect has to discipline that mind.
Just reading people's responses, everyone is really resonating, finding it relatable and so clear. For one final question. The question is asking Kritikaji to share some practical means to overcome body identification.
That body identification goes from gross to subtle, right? So we know body BMI, that BMI chart that's there. So you have to start that from all the different levels and not just from one level, because you could say, I am disidentified with my body. You know, I don't take showers every day or whatever it may be. I'm disidentified with my body. I don't look in the mirror for 2 hours a day. I don't wear makeup. I don't spend $2 million at the local drugstore, whatever it may be, on products for this body. I'm completely disidentified. But on the other hand, then we're identifying with the ego. So we've disidentified from a gross state, but now we're identifying with the more subtle. So Gurudev tells that nice story. I'll just very quickly allude to it, where that gentleman appears at the wedding, and the groom side doesn't know who he is, and the bride side doesn't know who he is. And then everybody begins to stare at this unknown guest. And as they stare and stare, then he slowly just kind of mingles out from the wedding party, from the reception or whatever, the wedding, and he leaves. So once we begin to get to know the different aspects of body identification, the body, mind, and intellect, and all of the different parts of it, how it's broken down and all of that. Once we get to know, then we can disidentify. I was going to say conquer, but that sounds a little bit violent. But then we can disidentify. Like, when we have satsang and all, I tell that when we're talking about bhakti, to really develop that love for Bhagwan, we have to know Bhagwan. We have to really spend some time with Bhagwan and get to know Bhagwan, do our sadhana, read the stories, study our scriptures. So the same thing, once we get to really know what the body is, what the mind is, what the intellect is, what the ahankar is, antakarana, all of that, the chitta, all of it, once we get to know what it is, well, then we could begin to say, oh, that is just my ego talking. It might come long after the fact, but that's just the ego talking. And the next time that it comes up is that, no, forget about that. That's just the ego. I'm not going to talk about myself anymore. Or next time we get agitated, then we can say, wait, I have a very strong desire for this to go in a different direction. That's why I'm feeling angry. And then I can say, oh, that's just part of this mind. That desire has just arisen in mind. That anger is just coming as an emotion. And that's just a response that is coming to me like this. But it doesn't require any thought. And I am an adult human being and I am required to think. And so then slowly then, because that identification means that you are just acting out of habit. Animals act out of habit, but humans are supposed to be thinking. We're supposed to be saying, is this the right emotion to be using at this time? And for how long am I supposed to be using this emotion for? Like that. So once we get to know, once we study, so these Vedanta classes and sadhanas and all that is offered in the mission and through Vivek and all, and we should attend as many of those. Actually, here at the ashram, we have like 2 or 3 aunties who are just in every single class. So really, we can't talk about, like, if we have to talk about something, we have to change the example for the next class because they'll already know what we're talking about in the last class. So attend all of them because there's no end to learning. And every time you study, also something new comes up. And through that itself, then you're able to say, okay, this is not that important. Or once you identify the identification, then you're able to say, oh, I don't need that anymore. I don't need to go down this route anymore. I can disidentify. And you could create sadhanas to actively disidentify also. I thought that's a very general answer, but I hope it helped.
Thank you so much, Kritikaji, for facilitating dialogue. We're all.
Thank you.
Hariom.
Hariom.
Thank you, Kritikaji. If some of you didn't shared earlier, that Kritikaji has studied in the Chinmaya Mission Vedanta course from 2013 to 2014. So that means she's been serving full-time for 8 years, essentially. And when we were planning the happiness series, then all I did was send an email to a group sharing, this is who I would like to tend to downtime, and this is who should tend to dynamics, and this is who should tend to dialogue. And remember, Kritikaji studied in 2013. I studied in 2005. So there's not that much of a difference, less than a decade. And then I followed up saying, I don't want to hear any questions. I just want you to respond with, yes, Sergi. And she did too. And that shows her humility and her confidence and her adaptability and her intensity. We thank you very much, Kritikaji, for staying up late for all of us. Final thoughts before we complete our workshop tonight. Your rad from yesterday was to not speak negatively about any human being. How many of you tried this? How many of you feel successful in doing so? If you tried this, if you were successful, really what that is showing is how large-hearted you are. The more large-hearted you are, the more you're able to absorb without reacting. Keep this rad going on. Here is your rad for the upcoming day until we meet for the final day of our workshop. Go for a walk, and for 30 minutes, instead of brooding about whether England is going to beat France, or if Donald Trump is actually going to pay his fine, or we're going to go on vacation next year, instead of brooding over that, brood over the past 300 minutes that we've been together, particularly the 6 personality powers. So go on a walk and only brood over our happiness series. Announcements. On day 1, I had requested and suggested all of you to follow and like Chinmaya Mission Niagara's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts. On day 2, I had encouraged all of you to subscribe to our podcast and webcast. Maybe someone on our crew can share if we've reached 100,000 views on our YouTube channel. And finally, in the Ramayana, there's a beautiful dialogue called Mitra Dharma, where Sri Rama educates Sugriva, sharing that the foremost quality of a friend is one who challenges you. One who challenges you to be better, to be happiness. Chinmaya Mission Niagara has developed and made available for all many books and guides. A couple of these books I've personally written, like the Reflection Adventure of the Week workbook, the Seeker's Word Book, and guides like the Upadesha Sara, Swatantra Guide, the Prince Arjuna's Questions Guide. Try to utilize these resources, these books and guides, particularly the books, as people are giving gifts for Christmas, New Year's, and so on. This is an awesome way to be that best friend who challenges your family member, your neighbor, etc., to be better. Sarve bhavantu sukinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhave, which is a formal prayer for be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.